Can you enlighten us about the love the Prophet Muhammad had for mankind? Hazur, could you kindly enlighten us about the love of the promised Messiah, peace be on him, towards humanity or mankind as a whole?
The attitude?
The love. The love, sir.
I'm sorry. That's right. You pronounce it as love.
Yeah.
It's supposed to say love.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So you see, it is a strange question in a way, because anyone who claims to be from God can have nothing but love for God and His creation. And this is common to every prophet of Allah, and even to the holy people who are small, lesser than prophets. I have been speaking on this subject repeatedly, that it is impossible to claim the love of God without at the same time claiming the love of the mankind. Not only that, love of the entire creation of Allah. Because if you love someone, it's impossible for you to hate his creation. Can you do it simultaneously? You love a cook, but not the food he cooks. You love a painter, but not the painting he makes. So they are, inseparably linked, these loves. All we know of God is through His creation. Is that not right? Who has seen God directly? Always through the reflective mirror of His creation. The creation is lovely. That is why we love Him. So the first evidence we give is with relation to His creation. And we find it so lovely that many often we fall in love with creation and forget the Creator. So are the holy men absolutely mad? How can they forget this fact that they also were led to God by watching His creation, and every actor, every little bit of creation raised his finger in the direction of Allah, and he was reflected not only from afaq but from within their anfus, not only by the study of the nature around, but also when one sinks into himself, he again finds the evidence of God's beauty. So how can you to love God but knowing that you have known Him to be beautiful because of His creation, you hate His creation? It's not possible. I'm talking of the dead creation. There we do not find any discrepancy. When you like a scene, everybody likes it, and there is no contradiction. But when it comes to life, and particularly the very best of life, that is human, then you find a very ugly contradiction in his claim that he loves God. He loves God, he loves his creation below the human level, but when it comes to mankind, he begins to hate them. How can it be possible? It only is possible if there is some distortion in his angle of vision. And that distortion always begins with selfishness. Of course, the selfish people also love, but their circle of love is smaller and smaller. The one who is most selfish, he would love only his children, his wife, or his nearest ones. Yet man cannot live without love. So, but God does not live only one family, does He? So he is not being honest to God. He is only selfish. So the man who is so selfish, how can he love God and how can God love him? Now, enlarge the area of this discussion and let's get out of the family circle to the circles of various religions. We know some priests love Christianity and the Christians so much, but hate Islam and the Muslims by the same proportion. So again, it can be proved that their claim of love is false. They don't love God, they don't love Christianity truly, because God and His religion cannot be separated, God and His creation cannot be separated. So this is a very sound argument which can be developed to a much bigger, much fuller discussion in application to every relationship between man and his surrounding. But because it becomes very deep and it will be difficult for me to finish the subject to the end so that it becomes understandable by all, let it be sufficient. The first answer, in fact, should have been sufficient. If you love the Creator, you must love the creation, because it is through the creation that you know the Creator, not the other way around. If you do not do that, then there is no truth in you, and the claim is false. Right?
My question.
Maybe I would like to add something more, specifically with reference to Hazrat Masih Maud al-Islam, as the question you raised was particularly regarding him. So although I have given a general answer, it covers Hazrat Masih Maud al-Islam as well. And the most important fact to be remembered is the more one loves God, the wider his love of his creation becomes. This is a rule which applies invariably. The greater the Prophet is, the greater would be the people he would be given charge of. The greater would be the people whom he would love. That is why it is only Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam who has been described in the Holy Quran as Rahmatul lil Alameen. Not only for mankind, not only for animals, but for the whole Alameen. This is a introduction of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah in the Quran which no other prophet shares. See? So, judging from this principle, if Hazrat Masih Maud is truly his subordinate prophet in Islam, then he must also show similar character. He must also love mankind exceptionally, and people should notice that love of mankind in him. For that, one has to prepare the answer with reference to what he has written in different books about this subject. It's not possible for me to give you exact references in the same words as he has used, but I refer to one or two passages from his books which will be sufficient to illustrate the point. For instance, in Kashtinu, he says that God is like a priceless gem we have discovered. There's nothing like him. He's so wonderful, so beautiful. It is impossible for me to keep that information to me myself alone. I can never rest in peace until I tell the entire world of what I have discovered. He says, my highest concept of Jannah is God. The ultimate of my pleasure is God. The most sublime love I can entertain is for God. And I am bubbling with this enthusiasm from within, like a natural fountain. And I want to share this news of beauty with the entire mankind, and then he finds himself so helpless. He said, "Oh God, what language should I use that they should get the ears to understand it?" what drum can I use to beat, to tell the whole world that come, come. Here is the most precious thing I have discovered for you. If you read those words in Urdu, they're very powerful. And it's impossible for anyone to read them and consider that somebody has done it artificially, you know, forcibly, effectively. They speak of their truth themselves. Very powerful, naturally flowing words which a liar cannot even dream of. So there's so many similar passages which tell that at the suffering of mankind as a whole, his heart used to bleed. Now, his treatment of mankind is a wider subject which mainly relates to an adult life. But if somebody has a genuine love for mankind, it is impossible for him not to display it in some way during his childhood. Because you do not suddenly become lover of mankind at an age of 40, 50, while all your earlier age has been barren of the love of people around you. So for that you must find evidence from that life when you cannot artificially pose and present a personality which does not belong to you, where you cannot indulge in hypocritical acts. A child does not care what people think of him. He displays what he is. And as such, if these writings from the writings which I have referred to, one of the writings which I have referred to, if they are true, then his childhood must bear witness to his truth. Because otherwise, if you just read from his books, people say, well, what's the proof there? He may have done it only to show off, he may have done it only to attract people to him. He has a good philosophy, he's a very pious and loving person and so on. But the answer lies in his previous life. A life in which he could by no means have contemplated the idea of growing into a godly man and becoming his vicegerent on earth and becoming the promised Messiah and so on and so forth. A child of 4 and 5 or 5 does not plan such things. Now, this is the life which we know, not from the reports of those who belong to his family or who were Ahmadis. We have evidence of his early life as a child from the Hindus who were not even Muslims, because his house was in an area which was largely shared by Hindus, because they were the majority in India anyway. So our house, I know, I have been living there, I have been born there, I have been raised there as a child. The very next adjacent, the line of houses which went on to get, as a compact block, was composed entirely of Hindus. So that is why they were witnesses, natural witnesses. As a child goes to the neighbor's house, they come to your house, they see you behave in the streets, in the house, everywhere. So the evidence of these Hindus is that this boy was a strange boy right from the beginning. He used to bring his food from his house, his share of food, and distribute among the poor children who used to gather exactly at the time of food, because they knew they would have their share. And then sometimes he would buy a few grams or what do you call chane ko grams hi kehte hain na? Chickpeas kehte, oh yeah, that's right, a few chickpeas, etc. And that would become his food even for days and sometimes weeks. Now how could a child pose like this unless he had deep love of mankind, unless he knew how to suffer for others. And that is the making of a prophet in man. This is a prerequisite. Not that all the levels of man can become prophets, not. Certainly not. But without this, God never chooses anyone to represent him and hand over the affairs of his creature to such a person who is crooked, who is cruel, who is unconcerned with the miseries of others. So I think that should be sufficient, because I can't produce books now, offhand. So later on, if you like, the Imam Sahib can collect a large number of passages which will require us full 3 days of this Mulkama al-Arab and the next week and the next week and so on. Okay?
I missed the beginning in Kashtino, the promised Messiah, peace be on him.
It says that Khuda, wo kya alfaz hai?
Hamara
bahisht hamara Khuda hai. Our paradise is our Lord, our God. I started referring to the paradise. This is what it says. हमारी आला लज़्ज़ात हमारे खुदा में है. The most sophisticated or sublime pleasures we have are in our Lord God. Right?
أضاف حضرة أمير المؤمنين وقال